My name is Jason Medlock, and you're watching Expansion of Consciousness, where we explore the powers of the subconscious mind, learn to reprogram the mind for success using quantum hypnosis, teaching mental strategies for athletes, coaches, and business professionals that produce peak performance. Also using meditation and mindfulness to build more focus. Let's get to it right now.
I want to welcome you to the Transform Your Mindset Bootcamp with the fascination with the human mind. The fascination with consciousness is what drives you.
You cannot miss the fact that mental training techniques roll right in the dynamic of the actual training process. Wow. Welcome to another episode of the Mental Game Plan Podcast, where we explore the frontiers of mindset and performance with some of the most innovative minds in the world. And guys, today we are honored to have Nate on board with us today. Nate is a true pioneer and one of the only two American master trainers of ancient Royal Indonesian energy and martial arts system. Over the past 20 years, Nate has blended his profound traditional knowledge with cutting-edge science methodologies by creating the integrated Ascension and White Dove method. His revolutionary approach to personal development has been featured in documentaries on Netflix, Gaia, and Amazon Prime. And he has received accolades from professionals across a spectrum of disciplines, including medicine, physics, and neuroscience. Nate's journey from overcoming severe bullying and emotional challenges in his youth to mastering energetic and martial arts is very inspiring. Today, we're here to share how we can all tap into our superhuman capabilities and transform not only just physical, but on a mental and spiritual level as well. Nate welcomes to the show a broad knowledge of breathwork techniques and a number of different modalities that he's learned over the years. And I want to welcome Nate to the show, and I want to thank him for joining us today to explore the exploration and the journey of transformation. And let's go ahead and get Nate in right now. Hey there, Nate. How are you today?
Jason, I am so good and getting better. Thank you so much for having me. And hello to everybody out there that's watching or listening right now.
Awesome. I am glad that you decided to give the mental game plan a try. And I know that you are out there. You've been working and researching for a number of years. And your career has just been absolutely impeccable. And I just want to say, again, thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom to the guests on the show. And we look forward to just having a really good show with you. But I want to get into this. I want to go ahead and dive into it because you have done a number of different good works, within the athletic community, within the business community, and just with ordinary, everyday average people. And I'm just wondering, Nate, how does the integrated Ascension method specifically cater to athletes? Because we're on the mental game plan and we're talking about athletes, but how does the Ascension method specifically cater to athletes who are looking to enhance their performance?
That's a great question. So, Jason, let me go ahead and start off with a little bit of a history where this comes from. So,
Sure.
I am the founder of the Integrated Ascension Method, yes. However, this comes from a very ancient and formerly secret lineage and method from the kings and the royal family of Java in Indonesia. Now, this comes from a martial art. Now, this martial art is called Merpati Putih. Now, I know that means nothing to people who speak English, but in Indonesian, that means white dove. So it's the white dove system of meditation, breathwork, martial arts, and combat, but then also extrasensory perception, which is why I originally brought this to America back in 1999. I brought this to America in order to help blind people see. And while I know that sounds very woo-woo and out there, I've spent the past 2.5 decades proving to medicine, to science, to quantum physicists, to neuroscientists, and even to blind people that we can learn to see with our mind, not always just with our eyes. And so there are now a lot of different schools that are starting to really step into this game and help people expand their consciousness. So with that said, the Merpati system is a sacred lineage that was passed down from father to son, or actually father to daughter in some cases, for nearly 500 years. And I became the very first non-Indonesian person they ever allowed to learn this in 1999 because of my willingness to help them start to help people expand their consciousness, specifically for blind people. Now, with that said, Merpati, this system is tried and true. It is unique in the world, and it has been in use by the Indonesian military, every branch of their military, including their special forces, for the past 40 years, for a very specific reason. A lot of people are very familiar with breathwork, or they think they are. They think breathwork and they immediately think Wim Hof, or they think holotropic with like Stan Grof, and the hyperventilation or superventilation modalities of breathwork. This integrated ascension method, or IM for short, is not that. It is based upon hypoxic breath holding and training, tensing our muscles, releasing hope molecules, which have recently been found to be, well, basically your muscles are endocrine organs that release a plethora, a cascade of feel-good antidepressant hormones when you flex your muscles, which is one of the reasons why I'm sure that exercise is one of the best cures for depression. So that, with all of this in mind, Jason, this is a unique system that no one else in the world has. And with the integrated ascension method, why that's no longer just the Merpati or the white dove system, which is what I've been doing for 24 years, but the integrated ascension method is something special because we're in such an amazing time in human history right now where we understand so much more about the body and so much more about the mind than we ever have before. And we have these incredible technologies, things like vibroacoustic technology, brainwave training. We have things that are also energy medicine, such as pyramid and tachyon energy devices. We have things that we understand diet. We understand nutrition so much better than we have before in the past, that I couldn't just do the white dove system anymore because I'm fully admit this. I am a nerd. I love the latest and greatest. I love technology. I love biological sciences. I love peak human performance. I love the expansion of consciousness and what we can really do as an energy that happens to have a body right now, to have this experience while we're here on the planet. And what can we really do? How good can we be? And then also, how much can we help others? So all of this combined is why it's the integrated ascension method, because no one else in the world is offering what I'm offering. And when I work with professional athletes, or I work with CEOs, or I work with influencers, I work with people who are at the top of their game. And I'll tell you a couple stories if you're interested about how people literally within 10 minutes or less have gone from being barely able to breathe after almost dying from long COVID to being able to surf again. And things like this, where we are such amazing creators and we are so unlimited, really, in our potential. But we have been taught that we are limited. We have been shown by our family, by our friends, by maybe our religion, definitely our society and our government, but even with our own observations, that we can only do X. But I'm here to show people that it's X to the 20th power is what we're really capable of. And I love to actually help people make gains quickly so that they don't have to believe anything. They step into the realm of knowledge. And once you ring a bell, you can't unring it. Your life is never the same after that point. And especially for athletes who are always looking for that edge.
Right.
Once you set a personal record, now you know what you're capable of. But I think every single athlete that has ever broken any kind of record, whether it's a Olympic record, a world record, or their own personal record, knows they could do a little bit more. And this is an amazing hack. The integrated ascension method is an amazing hack for the body, for the mind, for the energy, and for our potential, which is why I do what I do.
So Nate, what are some of the initial changes athletes might notice when they're practicing the integrated ascension method?
Oh, well, I'll tell you a interesting story. A good friend of mine is one of the most famous big wave surfers in the world. His name is Drew Brophy. And when
Right.
people go to my website, you'll see his testimonial. And Drew's a good friend that I met in Costa Rica a couple of years ago. Well, when I first met Drew, I just noticed this tall guy that could barely walk up a few steps before he had to stop and rest. And I was like, what is going on with him? So as I got to know him, I found out that he was on a ventilator with COVID for 70 days. He actually was on a ventilator the longest in the world, and actually anybody that has been on a ventilator and recovered, he holds the record. Not a record you want to have. He was actually in a medically induced coma for 30 of those, and he woke up paralyzed from the neck down. So if everybody out there can just imagine what that would be like. One day, you're able to hold your breath for 3 minutes or more, getting pounded by 50-foot waves and surviving. And the next minute, you wake up from a coma and you can't move. You can't breathe. You can't do anything by yourself. What would that be like in your life? Well, that's what Drew faced. And I met him 11 months after he woke up. And he was still struggling just to catch his breath, just to be able to function. Well, I taught him the most basic exercise in the integrated ascension method system. Very unique exercise that helps to open up the entire rib cage and really help the raising of our carbon dioxide while keeping our oxygen high, which is actually how we can intake oxygen into our cells. Carbon dioxide is absolutely crucial. And most athletes don't have any clue about this, actually. So when I taught this exercise, after about 10 minutes, Drew was starting to get teary-eyed. And I went over and I asked him, Drew, what happened to you? And he just looked up and he said, Nate, this is the best I've been able to breathe since I got sick. And the next day, he and his wife, we all went out. The three of us went out to this amazing beach in Costa Rica, and they taught me how to surf. And I was able to get up and catch a few waves, which is a bucket list thing for me. But what was even more impressive is that he was able to paddle, and the waves were way out there. He was able to paddle out and catch waves for the first time since he got sick. Now, that was in 10 minutes. Another friend of mine who is a 8-time world champion in track and field, 3-time gold medalist, never done any breath work before. He's all these accomplishments. He's never done any kind of breath work before. I taught him the same exercise that I taught Drew, and he literally fell down. He was like, I've never felt this much energy before. And so it's when I get to work with people that really are at the top of their game, or they're sick and they really notice a difference. That's just a couple examples of what this does. But for the people out there who are nerds like myself, who like to know what happens, there have been studies in Indonesia that have shown a very high mitochondrial activation. So the powerhouses in our cell and the turnover from the ATP into ADP and a reverse, like going through that entire cycle, the Krebs cycle, happens extremely efficiently. Also, the shift from acidic to alkaline in our blood. So the acid-base shift is a marked improvement. When it comes down to our VO2 max and taking up our oxygen, goes through the roof. When forced exhalation velocity improves immediately. I mean, this is not just a breathwork system. This is like, I'll put it this way. There are many vehicles. Some are Toyotas, some are SpaceX rockets. I've never seen anything like this, Jason. This is truly unique in the world, this integrated ascension breathwork. So when people do it, especially if they're an athlete, especially if they want to improve their performance and they're tracking their progress, it's almost instant. Like literally within minutes, they'll notice a difference.
Wow, absolutely amazing. And we know that breath work can be a vital part of the athlete's training. I'm a transcendental meditator, and I use holistic methods in my coaching practice as well to affect the subconscious mind. So I really love where we're going with this conversation. And now you mentioned superhuman breakthroughs as a part of your training, and I've read extensively some of the beautiful things that you've done. But you talk about superhuman breakthroughs as a part of your training. Can you describe what these breakthroughs look like for the professional athlete?
Well, I will do my very best. So I think every athlete, especially endurance athletes, well, actually, it would be explosive athletes as well, has
Yes.
hit the wall. They know what
Yes.
it's like to bonk, where your lactate threshold says, "Yep, you have just gone past it, and you are now in a lot of pain." So when that comes down to that, athletes notice right away that their lactate threshold goes through the roof. I mean, it skyrockets so that they're able to push farther for longer and not get tired, not get sore. And DOMS, I mean, that delayed onset muscle soreness becomes a thing of the past unless you really tear your muscles apart hard. But there are certain practices that we do in the integrated ascension methods, such as alternating hot and cold. Okay, there's that, which everybody out there loves, I'm sure, especially the cold. Oh, yeah. But it's really good for the body. But when we use a specific breath work, we notice we get sore a lot less. We notice our explosive power goes up. We notice that we are able to go for longer. And that also includes in the bedroom, which is my next course, actually, called the Arrows program. Because, I mean, you can have the best physical performance in the world. Let's say you're a world-class track and field athlete. There's one area that if you're not able to do those things, it makes a huge difference in your life and everything else that you do. Because, I mean, hey, come on, we all got here by the same process. Let's not beat around the bush. We know that that's a huge part of our life, and dynasties have been built and fallen for that alone. And if that's something that's lacking in our life, but why that really takes over into athletics is because nitric oxide, very important for us to have
Mhm.
enough NO. But the thing is, it's a very short-lived molecule. It doesn't last very long in our system, right? Which is what Viagra and Cialis do, is they help us hold on to nitric oxide for longer periods of time in our body. But we're the nitric oxide factory. All we have to do is breathe in through our nose,
Mhm.
not in through our mouth, but in through our nose. And we do it in a specific way that raises our NO levels. And so there are all kinds of different benefits that come into this, Jason. If that makes sense. We're
Yes.
really hacking the entire organism. But then it also comes down to the mental game,
Mm.
because if you are able, we call this stepping back from the wall. And I think that we all have experienced hitting that wall where we just can't go anymore. And that can also be mentally as well, not just in our body, because sometimes the mind wants to keep going and the body's like, nope, tilt, we're done, exit out, we're crashing. Other times, our body has plenty of energy and we're just so spaced out, we're not focused on what we need to do. We need to have those come together in a really synergistic way in order to create this flow state at will, which is what we specialize in with the integrated ascension method, is flow state at will. And also the second wind. So a lot of people, like, we still don't understand why people get their second wind, but it's still not known. But if you could shift into a second gear, I'll say a second gear instead of a wind, and let's say you're running a marathon or an ultra and you need to go to a third gear, a fourth gear, or a fifth gear, wouldn't it be worth knowing a simple technique that could help you on purpose, at will, bring those extra gears into play? Of course it would. And so we also specialize in things like that as well. And so the interesting thing is, a lot of people seem to compartmentalize their body, and they think, okay, the liver just does this and the pancreas just does this, the heart just does this, when we are a holistic organism where
Mhm.
every single part is in relation to other single parts. I mean, every single organ in the body has a corresponding point in the ears, which is why if you pierce certain parts of your ears, it can actually damage organs. Same with the feet, with reflexology. Every part is connected to every single part because we are an energetic being. And like if your heart stops, they don't want to stick needles in you like acupuncture. They're going to shock you back to life with electricity because we are light, we are electricity. And that's one thing that I really help athletes do, is realize that they are so much more than just the
Yeah.
physical performance in their physical body. And once they step into that, and like I said, that knowingness and ring that bell, sports gets to be a whole lot more fun when you realize it is literally a game. It's not a game like, oh, we're playing football. It's a game. No, just the act of putting one foot forward and then the other one and doing better than you did the last step. That is the game. And it gets to be an amazing, fun adventure. And it all starts with your breath.
And as I was reading, I said, superhuman seemed like a bold claim. But just listening to you, I can see how athletes experience breakthroughs and how it can transform their performance. So that is wonderful. But you mentioned breath work, and you continue to mention breath work. And I want to know, how does your approach to energy management and breath work differ when you're training athletes versus non-athletes?
Well, okay. So first of all, every single person is an athlete, and I'm just going to put that out there because
I like it. I like it.
you breathe 29,000 times a day. You've got 85,000 heartbeats or something. I'm not sure the exact number, and it would, of course, vary on the person. But when we think about this, our body is doing, from as I've read, that the average person has between 37 to 50 trillion cells, and each one of those are doing about 6 trillion functions per second. 6 trillion functions per second. So when you think about it, every single person is doing quintillions of functions every single second in their body, right? So these are all on the subconscious or unconscious levels. Now, when it comes down to superhuman breakthroughs for athletes, let's really dive into the people who are looking to improve their game, whether they are a solo, they're doing something solo like a mountaineer or an alpinist, or they're a pro volleyball player, or they are doing something solo with a bunch of people around them, such as Iron Man. That's inconsequential, because what it comes down to is you're using your body, this instrument of consciousness and activity and experience, to do something in the physical world that you want to do. Same thing goes with military. Not always what they want to do, but they have to do this physical activity. So where it becomes superhuman is when it would have normally caused distress, injury. It would have caused the reaching of that lactate threshold, where people hit the wall, they bonk, they're no longer able to physically or mentally perform, and they're able to go faster, farther, better, longer. And they're just like, how the hell is this happening? Now, why breath work is important is because if we look at, say, Chinese energy philosophy, and same thing with Indian, prana means breath.
Yeah.
So same with in Greek, pneuma, like pneumonia or pneumothorax. Pneuma means breath. So throughout history, thousands of years, all these different cultures have all pointed back to one same thing for an instrument of consciousness, but also our energy, breath. In China, yang qi, so the yang, not the yin, but the yang, comes from the air. It's a solar phenomenon that gets trapped in the atmosphere from the sun. And then we breathe it in, take it into our body. Well, we all come in with an inhale, Jason, and we all leave with an exhale. And we do it, 25 to 29,000 times every single day. But most people never, ever focus on their breath unless they're out of it. They're in some place that smells bad, or they're ill.
Wow.
They just breathe by default. But here's an interesting thing. Over 200 different health challenges have been directly linked to improper breathing. And we as human beings are the worst breathers on the planet. We actually suck at it, I'll be honest. We don't have a natural, normal, intrinsic way of breathing properly to increase and maintain homeostasis and health. Every other animal does. So humans, we have this amazing ability to create, to think, to develop, to do math and calculations. And yet we're, as a species, very, very ignorant and unaware of what our body is doing and how our thoughts and our feelings affect us physically and energetically. And that's what I help people do, is become, first of all, aware, and then how do you create hyper performance in that area. And so when it comes down to, let's get to some of the psi abilities. So in Indonesia, the special forces have been using this integrated ascension method breath work to help develop the ability to see without eyes, but also it's very similar to our own CIA, where they were trained how to remote view and use their consciousness to see where the Russian missiles were during the Cold War. They do that in Indonesia as well for the past 4 decades plus. And I've met special forces soldiers that have been able to skydive with hoods on, land properly, then get in a Jeep, drive through a forest to a disclosed location. But they had to do this all while blindfolded, being monitored by their commanding officers, and then be able to go and find where a key is buried in the sand to detect the vibrations, because we are multisensory humans. We're not just a 5-sense being. We are multisensory being. And then go into this room and be able to read what's written on a piece of paper that is sealed inside an envelope. Now, this all sounds like Jedi stuff. And yes, this is true. That is what I do, is I train people how to be real life Jedis, flat out. And we've been able to prove this to science and medicine. But the thing is those are all constrained in the physical world. But as a being of consciousness, we understand through the study of consciousness and through quantum physics that consciousness is not local. It's not housed in our body. Our brain is a great broadcaster of information and a receiver of information, but that's not where our consciousness is. So what this does for athletes, imagine if you were running track and field and you could sense where the person was behind you, and you didn't have to turn, didn't have to look, you knew where they were. What if you are a wide receiver? You catch that ball and you know when that free safety is going to come and just, wow, that was loud. They're going to come and they're going to clean you out. And you knew where they were and were able to stop or feel where they were and either minimize the hit or get out of the way, because you could feel and your intuition told you where they were going to be. Right now, a friend of mine is involved with the Navy SEAL Team 6, and he says that they actually train for this. They actually train to be able to sense their environment with hoods on and be blindfolded. Then they're taken to a location where they don't know where they're at. And then they have, within seconds, they have to be able to know what's around them, still blindfolded. They rip the hood off and they have to immediately assess the situation and take the right action. So it's developing the psychic abilities in our most elite operators. So there's a lot of stuff that we just don't know about that our governments and different forces do use to have the upper edge and the upper hand in situations. So I help bring that to athletes, because I think one of the biggest illusions that we're under is that we're limited.
Right. Well, just hearing all that, and you and I discussed, we're gonna take that up in detail on the expansion of consciousness. That's another podcast I do. But I am a trained remote viewer, and I'm a trained associate remote viewer. So I definitely get how you integrate other tools in the bag and show how they can be useful to athletes, business professionals, whoever. But I love that about you, Nate. I absolutely do. But I want to move to more of the mental aspect of sports. And, we both know that that's very crucial. The white dove method, I've read about this method that you've fine-tuned, and you really made it very, very unique to your skill sets and the things that you do. So how does the white dove method help athletes strengthen their entire mental game?
Beautiful. So, all right. So that's a very important and pertinent question, Jason. And I'm really glad you've asked that.
Yes.
Very few podcasters have ever asked me that, because we haven't really dived into how
these guys are not like me and you are right here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When we think about what it takes to be an elite athlete, or just any kind of an athlete.
Yes.
All right. Some people go out for fun, but as soon as you put a bib on that has a number, as soon as you put your name in the hat, your name in the ring, as far as, okay, I'm going to go into MMA and I'm going to go against another person, or listen, I have just registered for the Spartan race. It's time to start getting real about this, or else it's going to kick my ass. Right. This is a really important thing. One of the most important things that people can develop when it comes to athletic performance, 2 things. Number 1 is focus. Number 2 is mental toughness. Now, mental toughness is not just grinding through. Mental toughness, there's also something amazing in finding the beauty in exertion, the divinity in pain. There are many people who go out to get the runner's high, right? And they go out and they get really loopy from running. And that's one of the only reasons that they actually go out and run, is because they want to have those different endorphins and the cannabinoids actually in the brain be released in the body. So all of that said, why the White Dove method, now the integrated ascension method, why it stands above everything else I've ever seen? Two reasons. Number one is the hypoxic training. We train specifically how to control our fight or flight response of the amygdala and our breath. I guess the best way I could say this is your breath suffocation response.
Yes.
So we do this in a very safe way that has to be done with a trainer. Okay, so make sure everybody's safe. You don't go and do your personal bench press record without a spotter. But when we do that, first of all, that helps us control our physiological response and our mental response to the most poignant survival response that the human being has. Actually, any animal. Because think about it briefly. Human beings come into the world with two instincts. That's it. We have two fears: falling and loud noises. That's it. Babies will grab a rattlesnake. They don't know different. You drop a baby. Oh, yeah. Loud noise. Just don't clap near a baby's head, but you know what will happen. We're afraid of those two things, but it doesn't matter if it's plant or animal. If you take its ability to respire away from it, game over. That's where the complete stress response kicks in. And that's where people like free divers who are able to hold their breath for 10 plus minutes. Nobody starts out that way, but they do very specific exercises to train themselves to go past the point of breaking, to the point where they realize, yeah, I'm not going to break. And that's what we do with the integrated ascension method. It's a very specific type of breath technology that helps people do that. So if you can imagine, if you've ever been out of breath, of course, none of us have ever been out of breath. Imagine if you were then able to recuperate in, say, a tenth the time as anybody else, because you're able to actually control your body with your mind in a way that you can affect the functions and the chemicals that are happening in your body to get to a faster recovered state. What would that be worth in a competition, right? Or just, I don't know, comfort of being alive. There's that one. The first one right there is the stress response of the breath response. The second thing that happens is when we start to step into feeling the chi, the energy that runs our entire body, the subtle energy, and we're able to tune in with very specific exercises that make that subtle energy not so subtle anymore and very in your face, where you can feel it, you can flow it, you can build it, you can store it, you can project it, and other people can see it and they can feel it. Your animals will be able to feel it. And if you were able to then heal, let's say, in half the time from an injury or soreness, which is what many doctors have said about my students over the past 24 years and thousands of people, healing in half the time, literally. I've heard that from so many doctors that just couldn't even believe it. Well, that's going to help every single athlete. That's going to help every single human, because unless you have a what do they call it? Hypochondriac or something like that, where you like to be hurt, you like the sympathy, you like to be ill. Most people who are, healthy mentally don't like to be hurt. And we all like to recover faster. Pain is okay. Injury, totally different story. And so once you go from, a little bit of discomfort into complete dysfunction of the body, well, that puts a lot of our mental effort into the controlling of pain and also the building of ourselves back from feeling like we are no longer as strong or as capable as we used to be. All of those things, if you can limit those, you're going to have a much better function of your body and a better experience in life. And when it comes down to it, Jason, if you think about this, everything else could be subjective. Really, whether somebody believes in a certain religion or they believe in a certain type of mathematics, or those things can be debated. But I have a hard time ever finding anybody to debate these three things. Number one, we are here having an experience.
Mhm.
Second one, the spirit experience is ongoing. Third one, no matter what you do, you cannot shut it off.
Right.
You can't shut it off, no matter how much you try or you think you did. No matter what you did, you're then having that experience. So, with that in mind, of we're having experience, it's ongoing, and you can't shut it off. We get the chance to ask ourselves, what can I do that will help me have the experience that I prefer? And that's one of the biggest gifts that I can give anyone is the tools to help them have more of the preferred experiences and less of the non-preferred.
Well, where you and I can definitely agree on is mental resilience can set an athlete apart, and that's just hands down. There are too many examples of it. LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods. Need I say more? And they've all overcome, and they've been taught by coaches, mindset coaches, breathwork coaches, on how to overcome significant mental barriers. And I think that's very, very key. And even with the clients that I work with, when I look at mental resilience, doing the intake process, my first thing is, what is it do we need to overcome? And what exactly do you want? And
Yeah.
when I find that out, Nate, and then I delve into the subconscious mind. Quantum hypnosis, I think, is a fabulous tool in the box so that we
Yeah.
can possibly move you to different lifetimes doing past life regression. Now, we as coaches, sometimes you have to understand when to use certain strategies because the woo-woo effect comes in, and
Mhm.
you just kind of, you know how it goes, Nate. You just kind of have to taper. Hey, listen, I'm gonna do some work with the subconscious, and maybe not be too forward with what's gonna happen, but definitely when you can find the mental blockages, and
Mhm.
then when you can bring them forth and address them, now we can start to rebuild and create new neural pathways of thinking in the mind. And, we can go on and on about that. But one of the things I want to talk to you about um, is the recovery portion of this whole conversation. And we know that recovery is just as important as training. So how does your program address athletic recovery and injury prevention?
Beautiful. Okay, so first of all, oh, I love this. I love where you're going with this. So part of this is going back to all things are energy, right? We're
Yes.
all
Oh,
energy.
yes.
We're all light that's been slowed down in order for us to be able to perceive it. So one of the
Light and
things
sound.
exactly. We'll just say vibration, information, and frequency. Yes. And
Yes.
this is an interesting thing though. For thousands of years, people, especially in the East, have been talking about this life force, chi
Mhm.
or prana, ki, in orgone in the West. And the interesting thing, though, is for most of the disciplines that you find out there, it takes a very long time to build this up. And a lot of people just don't have that discipline. They don't have that desire to do that. But what if there was a way that using your breath, using a very specific modality, you could start to feel this on a very palpable level? So that it didn't leave question in your mind, am I feeling something that's real? It's like, yes, it's real and it's reproducible that I can do this at any time. So right off the bat, to step into the energy realm is not as woo-woo as you might think. It's woo-woo when you start to give it a label as, the stars are aligned and therefore this is why I'm feeling this way. And you start to give your power away. But when you just look at the principles of physics, that we are all energy, we are all vibration, we are all frequency, we're all broadcasting information. Okay, then if, like the ancient Egyptians said, that we have 360 senses, not just five, then we ask the question, what have we forgotten as a society and as a species, where if we actually started to look at things in a different way and we started to change our paradigm just a little bit, even just a 2 millimeter shift, after 1,000 miles, we're going to be miles and miles and miles away from where we would be if we stayed on our present course right here, right now. And so, right there, to create that shift and give people a real, deep, and undeniable experience of their own self as an energetic being. That's where I always start first, Jason, is because I want people to know. I am not interested in belief. I'm really not interested in belief, not nearly as much as I am in fact, into knowledge. And to that end, there's all kinds of different ations. If you think about it, people, first of all, they start off with inspiration. I want to do something. Then they get motivation. I'm going to do it. Then let's say they move to transformation, which just means change. Ask anybody who got addicted to fentanyl or meth. They have transformed. It doesn't mean it's necessarily a good thing. I only care about liberation, period. The freeing of the human mind and the human body. That's all I'm interested in, is liberation. And so to give people that expanded perspective and experience, that they're more than their physical body and they can perceive more than just what their five senses tells them, that they're not crazy, that they actually can do so much more than they've been given permission to do. That's the first step for me, is to help people to switch their paradigm of understanding who and what they really are. And once they understand that, then they can start to be different. But it's really difficult to be different if you're still unconvinced. And when people start to recover faster from their injuries, when they notice they're not sore anymore, when they notice their flexibility goes up, when they notice that just by taking the right kind, not just breaths, but the right kind of breaths, they're able to supercharge their entire system, when they notice that they don't get sick anymore because their immune system is so on point and it is actively working because of two main things that I believe. First of all, the better functioning of your immune system through the proper oxygenation and raising of carbon dioxide to utilize oxygen, because many pathogens are anaerobic and they don't like oxygen-rich environments. Second part is stress. So the CDC says right on their website that over 90% of all diseases are caused by stress. So if we can make ourselves sick, that also means that in theory we can make ourselves well. And if we're able to move from a parasympathetic fight or flight response system, which most people are in all the time, whether they know it or not, and move into a sympathetic is the fight or flight, into parasympathetic, the rest and digest system, in where everything is okay and our body calms down. We're releasing more oxytocin and vasopressin rather than cortisol and stressing ourselves out and breaking our body down. If we're able to move to that state over here where everything's nice and sedate and calm, especially when we're under pressure, especially when you're in battle, especially when you're on the field, especially when everything's on the line, and you're able to move into that state of flow, calm, peace, and focus and oneness. Imagine being able to do that at will. When we can teach people how to do that,
yes,
that's where we find what the upper limits of the human is.
And I wish I could just clap for you, because you're saying some good stuff, Nate. And and if I can break it down for the teenager or the college person, you're just saying it depends on what paradigm you perceive, what construct you perceive that's around you. Your belief system is all a part of what Nate's talking about, in order for you to be able to understand and to receive the training that he's given so that you can heal quicker. And it's all about understanding the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind you can do anything. The higher self can do anything. Dolores Cannon, I base my entire training program around quantum hypnosis, and understanding that if you have a small cut on your hand, and if you don't use Neosporin or any type of pharmaceutical to heal that cut will heal anyway. The body, the trillions of cells in the body are being directed. There are signals being sent to the brain. And you mentioned conscience isn't local. It's not local. It's been beamed in from a higher place. So if you can move a person to different brainwave states, to the deep theta state, to the sambulistic state, the state where it's possible to come in direct contact with the subconscious mind, the higher self, source, whatever people want to call it, you can direct the mind, the subconscious, to heal. And those are just concepts that are out there that I'm sure that you quite are well familiar with. But the forum we're on, it would take us into a totally different area. But can you explain how I was reading, you were talking about neurofeedback. Can you explain how neurofeedback and brainwave entrainment that's included in your program, how does that benefit athletes in terms of their performance and their focus?
Beautiful. So I use the Sensei headset. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a home EEG brainwave training system. So there are many binaural beats and different brainwave technologies out there that put you into certain states. And that's good. But there's only one that I'm aware of, and it just barely came out a couple years ago that actually teaches you how to get there on purpose at will and maintain it. They gamify it. It's really fun, but it has these sensors that tell you where your brain waves are at. It leads you through different experiences. It has lights for photobiomodulation through the skin and also HRV. So your heart rate variability goes through your ear and tells you your level of heart-brain coherence so that you can use the sounds that come through as you're doing your meditations to help train yourself to stay in certain states. Why that's important is, first of all, a lot of people, and I'm sure being QHHT, I think level 2 certified, if I've just had my very first QHHT experience a couple of weeks ago, it was life-changing for sure.
Yes.
Wow. A lot of people say I dropped into theta or I was in this alpha state. And I'm like, you don't know though. You don't know unless you have equipment on there actually monitoring you. And, one of a good friend of mine is one of the top neuroscientists in the world. And I asked him, I was like, Dr. Jeff, so when people drop into theta, and he's like, whoa, nobody ever goes into theta per se. They can have theta dominance, but we have all of the brainwave states happening at all times. So we're in alpha, we're in beta, we're in gamma. Lambda, that's above gamma, maybe not. That's a very rare state, but we have delta waves happening at all times. It's not like we are only now at 4 cycles per second, so therefore we're in theta. No, it's all of them. But which one is dominant? And then it's obviously, I'm not a brain scientist. That's his his expertise. But as I understand it from talking with him, we're in these different states, and one state that affects one person one way will not affect another person the same way. We're very individual in that direction. So if it's 4.11435 hertz, it's not going to be the same for 10 different people. But with that said, when it comes down to being able to track where we're at and on a subjective level, Jason, be able to drop into the states that increase our mental focus and our performance and our strength at will. What is that worth to an athlete who can slow their heart rate down, make it so they're not as adrenalized, make sure that their fine motor coordination stays with them even while they're under pressure, and gross motor is really what should be taking over. What does it do when we start to step into that superhuman? I'll say it's superhuman. It's not necessarily we're out there. But it's beyond what other humans usually do. What happens when we're able to do that with all of our performance? And honestly, enjoy the ride more and be fully present and aware, understanding we're having an experience and really enjoy it, even if we just got crossbody blocked in hockey. Still enjoying this as the experience that we're having, not just as a subjective victim of the life or of the experience. And I don't say victim as in a victimhood. I said victim as in when you get hit, who's actually the one perceiving you getting hit?
Wow.
Is it the large S self saying, wow, that was a crazy, interesting experience right there? Or is the small S self saying, they hit me. Now my body hurts. And so being able to make that switch into the larger aspect of ourselves and understanding ourselves from the broad perspective of the largest self is absolutely crucial for athletes. And how many athletes are there, though, that they were so enamored with the lifestyle and they had all the riches and they had the fame and they got so sidetracked into the shiny things that they destroyed their life?
Mm.
And how many are there also who are very deeply, I'm not going to say spiritual, I'll say embodied, deeply embodied, down to earth. They understand they're just having fun. They're doing this stuff that is very few people can do, and they're grateful for it.
And Nate, we know who those guys are, don't we?
Yes, we do.
We know, and it's very few of them, but the ones that are, we know them in the history books, and we know who they are currently. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out who those guys are.
That's right. And so what would happen for all the other people who were able to create that at will? That's what I help people do, Jason, is I help people create that at will. And it's beautiful.
So Nate, what's the first step that an athlete should take if they're interested in exploring the integrated ascension method so that they can improve their athletic performance? What should they do?
Well, right off the bat, I would recommend everybody goes to my website and tries a free class. So I've got an energy and mental shielding class that will help any athlete to be much more sovereign, regardless if their teammates are having a bad day or if there's discord amongst the coaches, whatever it might be. But a man can be an island when it comes energetically. And if you're able to stay focused, you're able to stay right on your game, even if everything else is in chaos, that's worth everything for your enjoyment. Can also be worth everything for your performance. And that you can get on my website. My website, I think I have one of the sexiest websites for energy workers in the world. I don't know exactly how I was able to do this, but my website is iampure.energy. So not .com, iampure.energy. And when you go there, you'll have the opportunity to get my free class. And then I have online training. So people can look at my masterclass. They can look at my LEAP, which is my Life Force Energy Ascension Protocol. And if you're interested in both of those, or either of those, use the code MEDLOCK10. So MEDLOCK 10, and you'll get 10% off right there. So after the free class, that's going to help you a ton. But when you step into the masterclass, pain-free mobility, more flexibility, ability to alleviate pain using just your mind and your breath, no drugs necessary, depending on the level, of course. And then also how to feel, flow, and project and start to feel your energy and how to refresh your energy in 2 minutes or less, no matter where you are, what you're doing. As long as you're not riding a bicycle on the edge of a cliff or driving, you can do this. And that's the masterclass. But the LEAP program, that is the full-on hypoxic breath training of the Indonesian royal family. And I'm one of the only people in the world. I'm actually the only one offering this comprehensive of a program for this in the world. So that LEAP program is invaluable for athletes. You'll notice an improvement of your performance almost, I would say, within probably 10 minutes at least. Maybe less. And then it just keeps getting better and better and better. So iampure.energy is your first stop. And then you can always reach out to me on social media. I'm always interested in helping people realize their greatness. And for those people who are the elite athletes who want private one-on-one training, you can also schedule a call with me. And it is a very intensive program. It is not for the average athlete, but for those people who really want to go through the stratosphere in their performance, who are already on the top of the mountain, I look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah. Medlock 10, guys. Medlock 10. Nate, your insights today have been just incredibly enlightening. There's just this journey that you've been on and the methods you've developed. It's just truly a testimony to the power of integrating ancient wisdom with modern science, which unlocks our true potential. And to the listeners out there, if Nate's story hadn't sparked a curiosity in you to explore your capabilities and perhaps even discover your human side, I urge you to delve deeper into what Nate has to offer. Nate, can you leave this audience with a parting word? Maybe it's encouragement. Maybe it's something that you want everyone to know about, what you're bringing to this world.
I'll do one better. I'll do it for not just what I'm bringing to the world, but what every single person is bringing to the world themselves. So in a beautiful book called Way of the Peaceful Warrior, it literally says on the cover, a book that changes lives. In there, you've got a gymnast, and you have a wise sage teaching him. And the wise sage named Socrates in the book asks the hero of the book, Dan, where are you? And Dan goes, I'm in a gas station. Where? In California. Where's California? In the United States. Where's the United States? On Earth. On Earth. Where's Earth? It's in the solar system. Okay, where's solar? It's in the Milky Way galaxy. No. You're here. Second question he asked him, he said, what time is it? And Dan looks at his watch and says, 11:15. I'm making that part up. He's like, no, the time is always now. So for all the listeners and the viewers out there, in order to come back into complete presence, I implore you, ask two simple questions as you remember to do it. Where am I? Here. What time is it? Now. And take a nice deep breath in. Fully inflate your lungs with gratitude for the fact that you got another one of those, and it's a blessing. And as you exhale, feel your body relax. Just staying present that you are here. It is now. You have this amazing vehicle of consciousness and experience, and that it's here to play with. Life is meant for living. So go and play and enjoy this ride, because you chose to be here. So yes, let's have as much fun as we can. Hands up, seatbelts on. Let's go.
Awesome. And just well said. But I want to move you to the back. I'm going to finish this show out, and you stay there because I want to talk to you a little bit more. And again, thank you for being a guest on the Mental Game Plan. Your insight, your knowledge was just invaluable to our listeners. And thank you again.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Hold on, stay there, Nate, and we'll be right back to you. Wow. Guys, I want to tell you to visit Nate's website to learn more about the integrated ascension and the white dove method, and consider enrolling in one of his groundbreaking programs. I mean, they're designed not only for elite athletes and leaders, but for anyone that's looking to enhance their physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. It's a profound program, and it can help you. You know, whether you're seeking to overcome personal limitations or aiming to elevate your performance, Nate offers a path that combines age-old techniques with the forefront of scientific research. And you heard what this gentleman was talking about, cutting-edge breathwork techniques. And remember that Nate has shown up for us, and the potential within each of us is boundless. And that was pretty much explained during our conversation. But it's up to you to make the first move towards unlocking it. Join us the next time on the Mental Game Plan as we continue to uncover the strategies that allow us to push beyond the ordinary into the extraordinary. Until then, keep challenging your limits and exploring the depths of your spirit. And I have one thing that I always say to you: trust yourself, trust the things that are coming to you, your intuitiveness. Relax your mind, be able to absorb, be able to have this sense of peace so that you can get better and discover. Don't be afraid to open your eyes to new possibilities. Thank you again. Good night.